Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet a corporate attorney who is one of the best in the biz. His journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I get around a lot. I do a lot of networking, and I was invited to an upscale event last week at the old Parkland Hospital that they completely redid that campus. It's beautiful. And I'm sitting next to my next guest, and we started talking, and he's been a corporate attorney for many years. And I said, you need to come on my television show. So welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show, Bill Kummerer. He is the managing shareholder, and he heads up the Dallas office for VedderPrice. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about how you got into law.
Wow. Well, I was initially thinking I was going to become a politician. I thought I'd run for political office. And so when I was a high school kid in a very small town, I talked to one of my teachers. My teacher, I had no idea where I wanted to go to school. I was in a very, very small high school, and he suggested that I consider the University of Iowa. So I decided, okay, I'm going to try this. My mom tried to talk me out of it because she didn't like the idea of me going to a big school. All my siblings went to small Catholic schools. And so I decided, based on some advice from one of my teachers, that I would major in political science. So that being sort of a launching position to go to law school, thinking that law school was going to be a launching position to go into politics.
Okay, so somewhere along the road, your political career got derailed. So what happened?
Well, you know, I started off, my first job was with a law firm in Chicago, and it was a nice job with a nice law firm, and the pay was pretty good, and I got married right around the same time as I started practicing law, which was 1988, and so I just started to get into the groove of being a lawyer, and a couple years into the being a lawyer in a law firm, I had a conversation with one of my colleagues at the time who was a few years older than me, and I said, you know, I really think that I'm probably going to do this for a few years and then I'm going to enter politics. And he kind of looked at me and laughed, and he said, that's not going to happen. And I said, well, why do you say that? And he said, well, once you joined law, you put on the velvet handcuffs, and you know, now you have a mortgage and you have a house and you have a wife and you're starting to have a family, and it's going to be very difficult to go backwards and make less money. That's right.
4 decades later, he was right. I want to talk about your law firm because it's a global law firm. We're going to scroll down your website, VedderPrice. So for people who aren't familiar with the name, describe the company.
So my law firm, and I landed at this law firm, I was with another law firm for about 10 years prior to that, and the firm was having a bit of a identity crisis. The partners were leaving the firm in large numbers, and I decided to start looking around, and because that firm had gone through a merger and had become a larger firm by virtue of a merger, when I decided I was going to leave that firm, I wanted to go to a place that I thought was not going to go through a merger. And so I ended up interviewing at a bunch of different law firms. I got offers from a lot of law firms, and I decided to pick VedderPrice because I really felt like it was the type of place where people were comfortable with the type of law firm it was, and that they wanted to grow organically and not by merger. I received offers from 5 other law firms, and all 5 of them within about a year or two merged with other law firms. And my firm has stayed independent the whole time. So, but this firm, when I joined, was about 150 lawyers in 2005. It's now about 350 lawyers.
Wow.
It's all been organic growth. When I started, we had a Chicago office and a smaller New York office. And then I started to get involved in firm management. So I came on the board of directors, started participating in some of the expansion work that we did. We added first a Washington, D.C. office, then a London office,
Wow.
then a San Francisco office, then a Los Angeles office. Then we added a Singapore office, and then next was Dallas. And I'll talk probably a little bit more about Dallas later because I'm here because of we formed our Dallas office. After that, we formed a Miami office. So we now have 9 offices, 2 international, 7 in the U.S., and 350 lawyers all over different practice areas.
And a great reputation. So do your bosses or partners come to you and say, okay, how do you feel about Dallas? Tell me about that conversation.
Oh, I get that a lot. But, the interesting thing is when I moved down here, a lot of people, the question people had is, have you ever been to Dallas? And of course I had, but it was 20 years earlier. I hadn't, really made any friends here. I just visited, and I had reason to come at the time. And it was a college friend of mine whose mom lived nearby and visited. And so I just said, no, I don't have any contacts. I'm just going to do this. Chicago was in the midst of a pandemic, and it was not a fun place to live. My wife and I had moved downtown, and we were looking for a change, something different. And I'd say prior to the time that I made the decision that I wanted to move to Dallas to open our firm's Dallas office, I really hadn't even thought that was possible. But in the year leading up to that decision, I realized that with the pandemic, everyone's working remotely. My secretary was working from her home. Other people were not coming into the office. I was, because I lived close by.
Sure.
But I realized that my clients haven't seen me for more than a year, and they'd probably not even know the difference if I moved.
Right.
And so I said, okay, I can do this. And I asked my wife, would she be willing to join me on this, sort of like life change? And she said, sure, I can do anything for 2 years, because that was what the plan was initially.
Did you have to switch your allegiances? Did you become a Cowboy fan? It's okay if you're not.
I actually have switched my allegiances. It wasn't immediate. Baseball was first, because I was a White Sox fan, and the White Sox last year, I think everybody knows, finished last in the entire league and had the worst record in Major League history. So leaving the White Sox behind wasn't that difficult when the Rangers won the World Series.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's talk about the challenges of opening up a new territory, because you're almost like a pioneer at this point. They're sending you to Dallas, and I don't know if did you have an administrative assistant? Did you come with any help?
I had a lot of help.
Okay.
I will say that. The firm was fantastic in terms of providing me the support that I needed and the help that I needed. Literally, I felt like anything I wanted, I got. But that being the case, I'd never opened an office before. I didn't really know what it was like. For 30 plus years, I was practicing law, dispensing legal advice to my clients, and being involved in firm management on a certain level, but I didn't know what was involved. So my wife and I took an initial trip down here. We stayed at the Crescent Hotel, and we walked out the front door, and across the street was this office building. And I said, oh, that's kind of cool. And looked around and said, maybe we'll get an office here. So we got a temporary office there, and we've never moved. We got a temporary office there, then we got a half floor, and then within a year and a half, we outgrew that space and got a full floor in the Crescent.
So how many people are on your Dallas team?
So we currently have about 35 employees, which is, I believe the latest count is 24 lawyers, 4 paralegals, and the rest administrative assistant.
I mean, that's a decent sized firm in Dallas all on its own. So,
yeah. It's been pretty incredible, really. I mean, I have to credit the partners that I've recruited and the people that I've brought into the office for making it such a success. But it's been really interesting and nice because being the person who came here and was the first boots on the ground, and we don't, as a firm, we don't do mergers with other firms. So what we decided to do in this case was just start one at a time recruiting people. So each time I would talk to people, I would get an opportunity to find out, hey, what's this person all about? What do they like? Do they like to come into the office? And for me, building a new office, I felt like we had to have people in the office.
Sure.
And even though it was during a pandemic. And one of the things that really made me love Dallas from the get-go is I came from Chicago living in a high-rise where no one would get on the elevator with you if you press the button and it would be one at a time. And I
Really?
got here, and the first time I got in an elevator, I think 10 or 12 people got on the elevator.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I said, this is the way it works.
That's awesome. And of course, Texas is growing by leaps and bounds, and so I think you made the right call. We're going to show the page on the website that features Bill, and I want to talk about the kinds of law that you practice. You described that you're a general corporate attorney, so you can handle a wide range of actions.
Yeah, that's true. For me, I'm talking about myself personally. I am a general corporate lawyer. I spend probably half of my time doing transactional work, which to most people would be called M&A, mergers and acquisitions, buying and selling businesses, that sort of thing. The rest of my time, though, is I have a whole bunch of privately owned companies. I don't tend to represent public companies, but I have private companies who maybe don't have their own in-house legal department. So I function as outside general counsel to a lot of people. The beauty of being at a firm like VedderPrice for someone like me is that I can handle all these different issues for my clients, not necessarily by myself, but with the support of all these other people in my firm that have all sorts of different specialty areas.
Let's talk about the trust that it takes to be successful in your world, because I can imagine that once you get close to a client, it could be, hey, my son just got arrested, I need your help. So talk about that trust.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I mean, when you represent entrepreneurs, closely held companies, family businesses, it's really all about, getting to the point where they trust you, because the person who hires you, or the people who hire you, are also the ones who tend to review your bills, pay your bills, question, why you're doing certain things, how much time it's taking, how much it's costing. And so it's a process, really, especially for someone who's started a business and maybe hasn't worked with a larger law firm before. It's a process of understanding that it's worth it, that there's a value proposition there. So for me, really, the first year or two is getting to know someone, proving myself, showing that I am adding value, that I'm getting their problems solved, their questions answered, and not doing it for a crazy amount of money. One of the things that I tend to do also with my billing, really, is to preview like what I think it's going to cost before it actually happens, and then as I render bills to clients, sort of explain, here's what next month's going to look like, because the worst thing you can have as a lawyer is having surprises in the billing.
No, I admire you for that. So, Bill, we unfortunately only have a couple minutes left. So, final thoughts. What would you like to leave the audience with?
Well, I've just really enjoyed my time in Dallas. I mean, I think it's been kind of life-changing for me. I still do a lot of work with clients from the North, but most of my clients over the years have expanded to being in national and international business. But I think Dallas and Texas is a great legal market. It's a great business climate, and it's just a fantastic place to live and be. So I feel like it was one of the best decisions I've made. I won't, besides having my wife and my children.
That's a good way to end the broadcast. That's wonderful. Bill, thank you so much for sharing your heart and your wisdom with us, and congratulations on your success. We're going to end with Bill's page from the VedderPrice website, and you can just navigate to Bill's page. Bill, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.